Hi there, my name is Michelle, and this video is going to be about monetizing your creations with AI. So would you believe me if I told you that this video game had been completely generated with AI? I'm going to show you how you can also create and monetize any of your content with generative AI. So first, what tools are you going to need? The first tool you're going to need is Celestory. Celestory is a tool to create interactive experiences for media content, so text, images, and video. You can also create immersive trainings, video games, interactive videos, or virtual assistants. And in each of them, you have several formats. So for example, in games, you can make visual novels like interactive comics. You can make text adventures, card games, e-space games. Really, the limit is up to your imagination. The next tool you're going to need is a generative AI provider like Bing Chat, which is free and powered by ChatGPT. So for example, you're going to be able to request lines of dialogue and image creations. So let's give it a try. So in our prompt, we're going to put, create a scene with an astronaut on Mars and write the first scene of the movie. So we'll see that the dialogue is being created with Bing Chat, which is in creative mode. And illustrating images are then created as well. Both generated text and images can be uploaded to Celestory. You just have to go to main menu, then files, and you can see I've already uploaded my generated content. You can also make a short video clip. To make a video clip of 3 seconds, or to generate a series of 2 seconds like in my clip of 6 seconds, you can just select any images, like this one that I've previously generated. Then use the Pika Labs AI animating tool to generate the animation. By the way, you can also transform your short clips into animated GIFs in order to use it as an animated background, for example. Pika Labs will try to imagine during 3 seconds the most probable picture frames to have a coherent animation regarding your animation prompt. And it's also free. So let's deep dive into our example. We first have a start block to launch the graph, and then the flux goes through a play music block, then a video block opening my animated short that I've just created. It has the same dimension than the following background that we see here in order to ensure a smooth transition. Then there's an alert block to ask the play block to put the email he paid for the game with. So let's skip the email verification for now. We're going to come back to it later. So let's assume that the player has been recognized and the game launches. Thank you for buying this game. It appears. So we're starting with a few lines from the astronaut summarizing his situation on Mars. Now note we could also have added some voice lines with the play sound block. Then there's another background. So in a sense, we could be done. I could very easily publish and then share my experience with a link. However, if we shared the whole game, then how are we going to be able to make a difference between paid and free gamers? Well, the answer to that is monetization. There are going to be 4 main ones. First, there's the premium method, with one unique payment in order to unlock the content. So for example, selling all of my games for $10, or all of my short films for $2, one flat purchase. The next option is going to be the in-app purchases, integrated in the experience and connected to different variables. So for example, I can measure the progression of the game. So at 10% of the content reach, or at a specific date reach, I consider the free content ended. I could also decrease a variable like actions before it stops with a payment tool. The third option is going to be the subscription with a paid recurring membership. So you could have fans or a wider audience that's coming back every month. And the last option is the reward option. So it can be within the experience. So for example, in a game, if you've accomplished an object like solving a case, then you'll have more points or more game time. Many mobile games use this method already in order to keep players engaged. That way, as you progress through the game, you're going to hit certain targets and you're only going to unlock things if you spend a lot of time and engagement with the activity. So then this is going to come back to your content. Your payment or your engagement is only going to be as strong as your content is. So you can apply the same logic outside of your experience, like with a customer service form. Celestory will create an app, which can then be exported by many devices. By default, you get a direct link supported by all devices. The system needs to be able to handle the connection between the payment system and the memory of the game. So let's see the second one first. The memory is going to be stored into a database, in our case, Airtable. Airtable is like a spreadsheet, but with dedicated types for its data columns, otherwise known as fields. So here we have email, name, game title, transaction ID as text fields. Then cloud saving, the saved progression of the player, will be in a single select field. So a text option between intro, chapter 1, chapter 2, 3, 4, or 5. Then the record ID is an identifier for only one line. So it's the record in the database. And finally, income will represent the amount of spending per gamer. Celestory offers a unique 2-sync live communication with Airtable. So we can see it on the website here. Once a user enters information, it's recorded in real time in the database. And the opposite is also true. The app can retrieve live information from the database. Now let's see how the payment system can send user data to Airtable. And for that, let's use a famous tool in the artistic world, Buy Me a Coffee. This system handles a variety of monetization, donations, but also payments like an e-commerce website. They take 5% of the commission, but it's free to use. So you can sell digital goods, service hours, etc. So I've made a fake one for Pierre. You can tip Pierre here with coffee. But you can also go to his shop where he sells all of his game accesses for $1. For this example, we chose game access, but it could have been energy packages for the game, bonus content, etc. So if I click on the game, I can share its specific presentation page with a link, which anyone on the internet can have access to. So it's very useful to share it on your social media, for example. Coffee dashboard, I can see that Johnny Halliday bought my game a week ago. So back into Airtable, I can see him as a line, and I even see he's reached chapter 1 of the game. So with all of this, we have the following piles of services that haven't required any coding. So it's what we call a no-code stack. Celestory handles our interactive experience and shares it in the link of the Buy Me a Coffee product page, which handles the payment and the identification of the gamer. Buy Me a Coffee will send that data with a webhook, which is like a postal address for online services. The webhook will be provided by Airtable. Then Airtable and Celestory will have two-way synchronization to customize the experience and save every gamer profile. Back on Buy Me a Coffee, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/webhooks to see how you can make one yourself. You have to be logged in. The page will ask you for the webhook URL, which we'll get from Airtable. But it will also ask you for the event that will start the data sending. It can be donations, a shop paying, what they also like to call extras, like the full game purchases. It can also be commissions, wish lists, crowdfunding, financing different parts of your content. It's really up to you. And finally, we have the membership for subscription to your page. So for our game, let's select Extra Purchased. Then let's go back to Airtable, where you can see the Data tab, but also have access to the Automation tab, which can be triggered by a webhook. So I select the webhook when received. Then Airtable gives us the webhook URL. We can then paste into Buy Me a Coffee. So let's create the webhook, which turns active. If you try to test on Airtable without sending data from Buy Me a Coffee, you're going to have an error message. So let's go inside the webhook and let's click on Send Test. I want to send an extra purchase test, and I see directly the full dummy data format that's going to be sent to Airtable. The content title, in my case, the Space Odyssey game, the amount spent, and the email of the buyer. Let's send the test and see if it was received well. So I go back to Airtable and I click on Test Trigger. And the data's been well received. So let's dive into the data format and let's expand its body. We can see the format is recognized by Airtable. So let's go into data to see everything in more detail. And we can see that everything is here. So for this automation, let's create the action as a consequence to my trigger. So the action will be to create a line of the customer table, so to create a record. So let's select the right table and then link the different fields to its data from the webhook. Email was in body, then data and email. Game title is in extras here. And then we can continue to all of the fields. But let's generate a preview now. And we can see that Airtable successfully received the dummy information, like john@example.com. So let's turn on this automation. Every time someone buys the game, a new record will be added to the database. So now we can look at how the database is communicating with Celestory. So here at the beginning of our experience, we've arrived at the HUD, which is our heads-up display, to show the pertinent information during the game. The HUD is a games menu, and let's see that in main menu, then on the menus menu. Then we can create pages like welcome pages, paywall pages, and also our heads-up display. So in a menu, you can easily add elements like an internet link. And here's the link of my Buy Me a Coffee Extra selling the full game unlock. I called it Support the Game as the link title. You can make other extras like different energy levels or different access points in your game, or really any kind of monetization method you want or could think of. The next element is a variable. You can set them up in main menu, then variables. In this game, we have 3 text type variables. First, the Airtable ID, which in Airtable is the record ID, the unique identifier of the line, so all of the player information. Then the cloud saving variable, which has a default value with the name of the game first, because as the variable is visible when the game is launched and the player hasn't necessarily been identified yet, his cloud saving is not loaded yet. And then the last one is the gamer name. So let's play the game. After the cinematic intro, I see that the heads-up display appears, and if I click on it, I end up on the game payment page. So if I pay, it's going to send the webhook. Then in the game, a choice is going to appear, prompting me to enter my purchase email in order to unlock the game, but also offering me my saved point in my cloud. The game will then perform an email verification. To link Airtable to Celestory, you're going to need to go to main menu, then integration, and then put your Airtable API key in. In order to find that, go into your Airtable profile, then account. The new Airtable custom token system works exactly the same. So here let's go to the generic token in Developer Hub. Copy your key and put it in Celestory. So then let's create a new block and then select Airtable. And in it, you can select your base and then your table, and here are your customers. So you have 4 possible actions: create, retrieve, update, or delete. The first will create a record and doesn't require any record ID. because it's going to either retrieve the data, update the data, or delete the data of a specific record ID. Let's go back to our graph. We can continue with an input block where the player will write their email. Then that data is going to be transformed by a single block into a very simple Airtable formula. Singleton email, singleton, which represents the email main field, has to be equal to unknown. Then the value of the unknown between the quote signs is x into double singletons to be recognized by Celestory, or it can be y, or it can be something else. It will still be recognized. Just copy it from the description of this video. The output of the format block will be the input formula for the Airtable block to set up on retrieve. Then outputs will be the data from this email, which can be assigned to the game variables. In the assign block, we can see that we can retrieve the Airtable ID and assign it to the game variable Airtable gamer ID in order to save it for later. The graph will go through the 3 assignation blocks, assigning the name value to the gamer name variable and the cloud saving value to the cloud saving variable. And in my database, for example, John Doe is still at the intro of the game. Then we need to check if the data was retrieved or not. Now, the graph could have been through this condition block before, but all of the assignment blocks linking to it would have had to overlay it. So the condition is expressed with an expression block. In it, it's a simple Celestory formula. Is the unknown different from empty? Written here, y exclamation point equals quotation marks. The unknown doesn't have to be between singletons here and can be replaced by anything you want. So let's link it to the Airtable gamer ID variable previously saved. So if it's different from empty, then the game is going to continue. And if it's not different from empty, so when it is empty, then the flux will be rerouted to the no data found graph part, where an alert is going to tell the player that his email was not found and advise him to contact support. Then the flux will be sent back in a loop to the email verification part of the graph. If a player is identified, then we need to reroute him to his progress in the game, depending on their cloud save data. It also allows you to access the same content on multiple devices with a continuous experience. The switch block is like a condition block, but we can simultaneously check several conditions, each per path. Here we have one path, but we could have had 2 or more paths. So if condition 1 is filled, then path 1 is taken. If condition 2 is filled, then path 2 is taken, etc. So what is the path 1 condition? It's expressed by an expression block. Unknown x is equivalent to, represented by 2 signs equal, then apostrophe, chapter, space 1 apostrophe. The value has to perfectly match one of the options in the single select type field, cloud saving. So let's do the test with this player who's already reached chapter 1. So playing the game as Johnny Halliday, we can see with the debug menu the current value of the variables. So we can see this when Johnny enters in his email, he's going to be directed immediately into chapter 1. So let's test that now with John Doe, who's still at the intro. So let's see that with John, and we'll see that John will continue the game from the chronological path of the beginning. Then at the end of chapter 1, an assignation block changes, assigning a new value to cloud saving, which is chapter 1 exactly. Then there's an Airtable block with the update option. One entry of this block is the Airtable gamer ID to update the correct player data. And another one is cloud saving, which went from intro to chapter 1. And the Airtable block will continue to update the database with the new values. Let's continue John Doe's game session. And we'll see that the value is changed in Celestory and now in the database. So if John restarts the game on whatever device he likes, once he's logged in, he's coming back to exactly where he left off. And that's a wrap for our tutorial on how to monetize your AI content with a customized digital experience and many possibilities of payment methods. So we're going to wish you all of the best and all of the creativity, and we hope to see you on Celestory. So now it's time for you to take your imagination, turn it into content, and monetize it. I can't wait to see you on Celestory.